Hi, my name is Liz and I'm with Big Hairy Dog, and today we're going to be walking through a little bit of a demo for Prism, and that's going to be for Retail Pro. And this version of Prism is Prism RIL. So we're going to get started here in just a minute, waiting for a few stragglers to go ahead and come on in. We have a few people registered for this webinar here. By default, everyone does come in muted. I apologize for that. If you have any questions at all, you can either raise your hand. If you have a mic, I'm more than happy to unmute the mic. You can always type your question as well if you don't have a mic attached to your computer or if you're not dialed in over the phone. Again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and today we're going to be taking a look at Prism RIL, and we're going to get started here in just a minute. Thank you so much. All right, so it's been a few minutes. I just wanted to go ahead and take this time while we're waiting for a few stragglers to also go ahead and mention a few things about Big Hairy Dog as a company. So we've been in business almost 28 years. We actually have our anniversary coming up here in February. And pretty much right from the beginning, we've been supporting Retail Pro software. And we have plenty of happy clients with Retail Pros in all versions still. And so this is the latest and greatest from Retail Pro, the Prism. What makes Prism so special is that it is a web-based point of sale software. So if you notice that, actually, let me go ahead and make sure that all right, there we go. So we should be sharing my live screen now. And so this is Prism point of sale. And as you can tell at the very top here, this is just a Google Chrome tab. And so I can access my point of sale essentially from anywhere that I have an internet connection. And this is going to be great for those mobile sales, or just to help the line die down a little bit. We can open up another register on an iPad, for example. We set that iPad up to be able to take credit cards, at least credit cards only perhaps, and we plug in a little magstrip reader, and there we go. We are all set. We can also go ahead and configure it to be attached to a Genius device or a pin pad unit that is somewhere else in the store, so we can go ahead and print receipts through an actual physical hardware as well that is in your store. All right. Just go ahead and get my controls out of the way. All right, so like as mentioned, this is just a Google Chrome tab. And so this is our main screen. This is our main point of sale screen here. So I can start a new transaction. I can look up past transactions. And of course, we have our disbursements. And for those of you that might be new to Retail Pro, it's just their verbiage for anytime money needs to come in and out of the drawer, and that's not on a regular sale. So that way we don't have to worry about leaving notes for our cashier. Your drawer is short $20. We had to do X, Y, and Z. Nope. system has you covered, and it's going to go ahead and know exactly what to expect in that drawer. No questions asked. If I hit the little Retail Pro icon down here on the bottom right-hand side of my screen, I can open up my Prism menu. And here I have a few different options. I have my point of sale. This is the screen we are currently on. I have my store operations. Store operations is going to be a little bit more on that back end. We have our merchandise. I can create new merchandise, purchasing and receiving as well. Again, we have full functionality on a web-based software. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick second, and we're going to pop into merchandise and inventory. All right. And so here in our inventory, I've immediately dropped into some filters that I can go ahead and customize. Right now, this is looking at description 1. We have multiple description fields that you can go ahead and access, and we can go ahead and put any one of them up here. So using this little plus icon here, I can add additional filterable criteria, and I can close that there. So if I wanted to go ahead and say search by attribute instead, there we go. I can go ahead and look at my attributes and make sure that it equals, not equals, contains. There's really a lot of flexibility, and you can customize this in any way that you want. Of course, we can also hit new, and I can just start building a brand new item, again, from a mobile device. All right. Getting a little ahead of myself, so we're going to go and lose that data. I'm going to come back over here to my point of sale. Okay, sorry. As mentioned, so Big Hairy Dog has been a part of the Retail Pro family for quite a long time here. But what really separates us from the pack, so to speak, is that if you give us a call Monday through Friday during our business hours, you're always going to go ahead and reach a live person. We don't like those automated services that won't let you talk to anybody until you give them, your entire life. Here, we're going to pick up if you're down. We're going to go ahead and do everything in our power. We'll go ahead and excuse ourselves from appointments for a few minutes to go ahead and help you get back up, and then we go ahead and jump right back in with our clients. We really do understand the plight of the retail worker. Any second that you're down and not able to make a sale is missed opportunities, and we do not like people to miss any opportunities here. All right. And so since I took that opportunity to talk about Big Hairy Dog for a minute, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. So Prism, first things first, we're going to look at point of sale, really the meat and potatoes, everything that you need to go ahead and run a retail business. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a brand new transaction here. And there we go. Didn't click hard enough. All right, so it's a pretty slick screen, and this can also be customized. So if you wanted things rearranged a little bit, we can go ahead and do that. But really, we have our item lookup. So this, we can go ahead and, again, configure hardware. We can definitely set this up on a standard point of sale register. We'd be able to go ahead and scan items in. We always have access to our searching here. And again, you can see I have that vendor code, but perhaps what would be even better in this scenario is an ALU or my UPC. We have multiple ways of tracking the same item that can be unique. That way, if you have your own way of tracking items, we have the vendor UPC. No matter what gets scanned, we're going to make sure that we're pulling the correct product at the correct price and at the correct cost. All right. So for this one, I think I'm going to go ahead and drop my vendor, drop my UPC. We're just going to take a look at ALU. And I just want to take a look at what I have. So I'm just going to say is not, actually I might have put is empty. So let's go ahead and see. There we go. We still have a few of them. And so if in this case, I have UPC information for these items. So I found the item I'm looking for. I'm going to make sure I give it a little check mark, and I'm just going to hit OK. Think of this like a shopping cart. I can go ahead and add as many as I want. If we're picking up multiple things from the same vendor, perhaps, I would want to go ahead and search for that vendor, and I can start cherry picking my items. Just going to hit OK. And that brings my item to the screen. Of course, like I said, we can go ahead and type in the item identifier, or we can scan it in. And there we go. This is a good example of what happens if we have something that is similar. Perhaps the ALU was similar or similar enough to go ahead and show me that I have two items. In this case, it's going to prompt the associate to decide what the correct item is. All right, let's say, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and select item and get that onto the screen. You'll notice if I go ahead and highlight the item, I get this extra little bar of information. So I can go ahead and look at the details. I can add a discount to a singular item. That's what we refer to as a line item discount. I can void or I can remove that single item. I can also edit the quantity here. So let's go ahead and take a quick discount. So let's go ahead and do a percentage here, and we can do a quick 10%. I can always open up my details, and I can go ahead and see a little bit about current existing details. Cancel out of there. Discount 10%. And there we go. And now I can go ahead and see that discount. Now, if your environment is more of a global discount environment, perhaps we don't actually discount individual items. We want to be able to discount the subtotal or the entire receipt. I can go under my transaction details and add a discount to my entire receipt. I can also go ahead and right here from point of sale, if we decided that perhaps we weren't quite ready to take all of these items home. As you can see, we have an order discount as well. I can convert this sale into a sales order. All right, a few other things while we're already in my transaction details. Here, I can go ahead and add any additional fees, and we can set these up in our admin console or in RIL, Prism's backend. And so we can go ahead and enter our fee type. We can always go ahead and create new ones as mentioned, and we can add that fee amount. We can also do shipping from point of sale. And so here, what we'd want in order for this to populate, I actually want to go ahead and add a customer to this. So you see we've been adding items to this receipt without a customer. That's totally fine. Of course, in retail, it happens. We want to be able to sell our items to anybody who walks in the door. But we also want to be able to track customers if we decide, if we want to. And so let me go ahead and see. I think I have myself listed in here. There we go. Liz Martinez has been added. Any information that we have for them is now attached to this receipt. And I can also see that primary phone number pop up. We can configure the system to be able to look up by first name, last name, phone number, email, whatever is going to help you the most. All right, so we've gotten a few items onto the screen. We've gotten a customer onto the screen. And now if I come over here to transaction details, shipping, you see it populates what it has. And unfortunately for this customer, I don't happen to have address information, but I can go ahead and add that. All right. From here, I'm essentially ready to tender this. So I can come over here to tender transactions. And so by default, it's looking at cash. That is a preference of mine. I can change the tender type here. And let's say we were accepting a credit card. There we go. Card type, I'm currently not configured to actual credit card PIN pad device. When we are configured, things are a little bit more streamlined, but you can select your card type. And if you are not integrated, you're going to go ahead and be asked for this extra information. But I can also just say take, and there we go. It's accepted that we've taken that $49.11. And now that our amount is, now that our taken amount is 0 and we're all squared away, we are set. I can go ahead and print an update or update only. Let me go ahead and void this for just a moment. I'm going to go back to tender type. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like as cash. So I'm set this up as cash, but I'm going to type in that they gave me $50. course, I can use the buttons. Prism works amazing for touchscreen devices as well. So we go ahead and set up these tender buttons, and that way they can just continue to use them. As you type and type again, it'll start to add to your total. All right, so let's go ahead and say that we're taking the 50. All right, so now that we actually have a little bit of change to give back to them, it does go ahead and show that over here and ensures that we have to hit give. It's a reminder to our associates to please give that change. And there we go. And not until we hit that we have given the change will it allow us to print an update or update only. And remember, this can be mobile, this can be an actual register, and we can configure both. So we can go ahead and print and have it actually from a mobile device and have it actually print to one of your receipt printers. Right now I can update only, and of course we always have the option of a gift receipt. All right, this is that final pop-up, that one more time reminding you this is what happened, and if you didn't give that change, be sure to do it. And there we go, now we are ready for that next transaction. And so you see Prism's point of sale is fairly straightforward, very, very user-friendly. It's hard to mess up. And we can always go ahead and change that over to order. And you see now that customer order is highlighted. We're essentially trying to build a customer order. We can always go ahead and flip over to a return. Returns are very simple in Prism here. All right, for just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and pop over to my admin console. I'm also going to go ahead and take this time to ask if anybody has any questions about Prism's point of sale side. All right, and no worries, if anybody has any questions, you can always raise your hand a little bit later and we can go over all of your questions all at once. All right, so as mentioned, Retail Pro and then store operations. Here's where I can go ahead and have access to my inventory, purchasing, and receiving. So under merchandise, inventory, we took a look at this just a second ago, but now I want to go ahead and point out a few additional aspects. So subsidiary, we have the option of changing the subsidiary that we are looking at. A subsidiary for Prism is essentially where that store lies within your enterprise. So you can have multiple subsidiaries. If you're all within the same region or area, chances are you're going to have just the one subsidiary, but multiple stores. And so that's what we have set up here. Actually, we have two different subsidiaries, one for more locals, and here are my local stores. And I have a second one as maybe it's in another country, and I have stores there as well. All right, price levels as well. So by default, we're looking at retail. Prism can support as many price levels as you need. So if our employees have a specific price level, or we also sell to wholesale clients, we can go ahead and set them up, and we can assign those clients and those employees, those customers, their own price level. So there's no confusion when they come to ring up, or when they come to the point of sale to check out. We essentially get their name on the ticket, and then with their price level assigned, all the prices that ring up are going to be accurate. So if employee price level is assigned to a customer, and the price level is about maybe 20% off of retail, then your associate does not have to add any additional discounts. It will just pull from the price level employee. Right now, we're going to go ahead and keep it looking at retail. Season. This is something that you see a lot in our clothing stores. They do want to go ahead and make sure that we have a filterable location where we can go ahead and take a look at season. I can look at winter 2019, 2020, all of that good stuff. One more time here. Let's go ahead and just say via vendor code. Oh, actually, go ahead and do description 1. And I'm just going to say is not empty. Again, I kind of want to cast a wide net here. Of course, when you're running this, you might do a slightly smaller net. But again, we can go ahead and click, and I can go ahead and edit this. I can deactivate. I can also check out my item details. Your item details is going to be essentially your item in a nutshell. Everything that you need to know, anything that you need to track, even if it is something that you don't necessarily need to track, but we want to keep it for our own reporting purposes. We want to go ahead and make sure it's in it's in Prism, excuse me. I can always go ahead and come over here and hit New. And there we go. And so this is how we would create a new item in Prism. And so there are a few things that are required, things like your department and your vendor. But other than that, we can also go ahead and customize this. You see, we have multiple descriptive fields. If you're not sure where something goes, we really do want to go ahead and take the time to speak with you about your inventory before and during training, so that we know exactly where things are going to end up in your Prism. If you're thinking about coming up from Retail Pro, I'm happy to say that Prism RIL, the back end of Prism, looks almost exactly like version 9. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of crossover. So you really, when you start off in Prism, there is a lot of comfort in knowing that you know where to go. Besides that, let's go ahead and come on over here, and I'm going to add a department code. And let's just go ahead and there we go. I'm going to add a department. I want to also add a vendor. As you can see, if I go ahead and click the little drop down, I have access to all of my vendors. I can always create a vendor on the fly if it's not part of my database already. For a vendor, the only thing that's required is going to be our vendor code and our vendor name, really. But any additional information, again, you can put it in, and it might be useful for you for reporting purposes. For now, I'm going to go ahead and add a vendor. All right. And let's go ahead and just make this our test item. I'm a trainer here with big hairy dogs, so I do this a lot. Lots of test items, something that I can easily search for later and go ahead and clean them up. Attribute and size. A lot of people like to go ahead and consider attribute color. I always like to think about it as the next distinguishable feature after size. So if that's material, we can also use that same field for material. Store on-hand quantity. At this time, I really don't want to edit this. I'm just building the item. In order for Retail Pro to be a true proper inventory control software, there are a few things that are required, and that would be for items to come in on a voucher and to leave on a receipt. Of course, you have the ability to just manually adjust and edit your inventory. We need that. But the more that we can go ahead and get our best practices down, the easier it'll be to go and understand where we might have, made mistakes, and it'll be easier to go ahead and correct because we now have those audit trails. Let's go ahead and enter an attribute here, though. We're going to go ahead and say this is a red test item. Size is small. I'm going to enter a quick cost. And I'm going to go ahead and there we go. So without entering the price, because I selected a department that had a margin in it, it automatically calculates that price for me based on my cost. And if I don't like it, I can just type over it. But it is helpful to go ahead and ensure that you have hit your desired margins for a given department. Down over here, we can see that price with tax. And so taxes are set up and configured in RIL. And so you don't have to worry about that in Prism. Essentially, we're just going to go ahead and build it, and it knows how to assign that tax based on your store. If we have multiple tax areas, That's something we can go ahead and get into a little bit more with training, but it's something that's very, very easily set up and very manageable to allow people to go ahead and change to different tax areas if need be. UPC, remember that is our vendor's UPC. ALU, that stands for alternate lookup, and that is more of an internal alternate lookup. That's really about all that I need. If I did track serial numbers, then I would want to go ahead and let the system know, do I want to track partial or full? We have lots of stores that sell things like bikes or guns. They absolutely need to track it, but where they need to put in that serial number depends. Full is much more strict. Essentially, if you're touching that item, you have to let the system know what serial number you're using. Partial, that's essentially when we're selling the item, you have to go ahead and let it know which one you're selling. And none. Inventory types, you see I got none and gift cards. We can go ahead and sell central gift cards as well. We'll talk about centrals in just a moment. All right, and the other thing I wanted to mention, we have the ability to make these non-inventory items. So remember, those are going to be great for service items. If we do gift wrapping, things that we need to be able to sell, but we don't need to track on hand. Another good use, at least here in California, that's going to be like our plastic bags. No one wants to sit there and count 5,000 of them, but we need to be able to sell them. All right. So if I go ahead and pop along down here, you'll notice that I have a few other tabs available to me. So I have my price and cost information. Quantities are available once we actually build the item. So if you have multiple stores, you can take a look at what your quantities are across different stores. Purchasing. So if this item were to be placed on a purchase order, does it have a minimum does it have a minimum order quantity, or do we want to set up a minimum or a maximum? Store min and store max is essentially a user defined. So the system can help you by analyzing your sales history. So if you tell Prism, I need you to look at my past 3 months and then tell me what you think my minimum should be and what my maximum should be. We're going to give it a little help by adding our formulas, but that's how we can start to automate some of our ordering processes. User-defined fields are amazing. User-defined fields are available for essentially anything that you need to track that is not natively tracked in Prism. And so you can see we have a few examples of that here. So natively, I do not have a space for bin number. So we decided to go ahead and utilize a user-defined field. These fields are reportable and filterable. So I can go ahead and assign this a bin number. Great for warehouses. Again, season, whether this item is a consignment item. And we can also go ahead and add anything else, collection, stitching. We have a few examples here based on some stores that had the need for them. Under miscellaneous, this is where we can add additional information like SPIF, a salesperson incentive fee. So if your sales associates get a little bit of money every time they sell this particular item, we just have to enter it here. And we can run a report that's going to keep track of it for you. No more needing to kind of have people sign or write anything on a paper. The system knows. All right. So we're all set here. I can go ahead and just save this item. There we go. Let's go ahead and enter some manual. All right. Getting this because I made a few adjustments. And continue. Come on. Oh, there it is. Being a little impatient there. But we've just created this brand new item, and again, from a Google Chrome tab. And so I'm going to pop on over here, go back to store operations. And so that was a pretty brief glimpse into our inventory. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to go ahead and pop directly into purchasing. I just kind of want to show you guys everything Prism has to offer here. All right. So in purchasing, so this is our purchase order section. And so purchase orders, although not required, they really do help streamline the process of receiving and open you up to additional reporting. So you can run things like your SRO, which is your sold, received, and on order. And now our buyers are aware, maybe we've sold quite a lot, we received a few, but actually I have an order coming in next week, so I might not need to restock just yet. I'm going to come over here to a new purchase order. All right, so PO numbers, they are system generated and system assigned, but you can go ahead and type in whatever you want as well. The associate, we can go ahead and change. Let's just go ahead and pop that down. PO type. So we have two types of POs in Prism. We call a drop ship PO. So that's going to be direct to the store that we're creating this PO for, and marked for. You'll see that a lot in warehouse environments where perhaps we're sending to one location, but its final destination is a separate location. All right, vendor code, of course, is required. Let me go ahead and do this. Account number if desired. Store, again, we can select our store. And then our bill to store can be separate. All right, just like in our receipt, I can scan items directly into my item lookup. I can start typing them in. And if there are any duplicates, it'll ask me to grab the correct one. Let's actually grab this guy. And I'll switch this over to Nike. And there we go. And you can see if on the vendor profile, we took the time to enter things like account number, then I can go, those things are auto-populated on purchase orders and vouchers. All right, so I have at least one item here. So I brought that in using my item lookup. I can always hit that little search and I still have that same information. So here I might want to go ahead and do search by our vendor code, and that's going to be the vendor code Nike. There we go. And so this is set to equal, perfect, and I'm going to hit search. Awesome. So now I'm going to go ahead and just cherry pick the items that I want. Go ahead and take that one and that one. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hit OK. And add those items to my screen. So order quantity defaults to just the one. I can go ahead and edit that here. So perhaps I want a few. And I'm going to also make that Nike one for my PO number. All right. So now I'm almost done. Perhaps I also got a little bit of a discount on this order. Under purchase order details, I can add any fees or discounts. And perhaps I'm getting a quick 10% discount here. If I have any freight information, I can add that as well. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hit close. And we are all set. Now I can go ahead and see that discount 10% listed down here. My freight $25 listed down here. And this purchase order is ready to save. I can always hold a purchase order as well if you're going to still work on it and come back to it. Remember that a purchase order is just a planning document. So we can make edits essentially up until we're ready to receive, and it's not going to affect anything in your inventory. So if you, as a buyer, have heard that actually this cost is going up, I can edit the cost here, save, and this ensures that when I'm receiving against this PO, it's going to have that cost correct. And then I can go ahead and receive it into my inventory, let the system cost average for me. It's not going to change any existing inventory to reflect that $31 cost. It's going to go ahead and average that out for us. All right, and we can print these as well. So perhaps we can go ahead and print them and send them to your vendors directly. Everything that you see here is also customizable. We can add additional columns to the screen. So if other things are helpful to you, like description 3 and 4, we definitely want to get them on the screen for you. All right. And then we have a question. Can you delete an item from a purchase order? Yes, absolutely. And you know, for example, if you submit a purchase order and the vendor says we don't have that item, it's no longer available. Absolutely, we can go ahead and do that. So let's take this one for example. We've saved it. I'm going to actually go ahead and come back out. We're going to pop down to store operations one more time. Purchasing. I'm going to go to purchase order lookup. And here we go. Right now, this is looking from January 1st to the 13th. I know I don't have a whole lot of purchase orders, so I'm just going to let that search. And there's my purchase order. Of course, I can go ahead and add the vendor if I have anything else, or if you know the purchase order number, just throw it in there. But I'm going to go ahead and say, this is the one. I need to view this purchase order. All right, and we're back to that same screen. So now I can edit. And let's say, for example, this last item, unfortunately, they just don't have it anymore. It's on back order. It's going to take too long. I'm not going to get it with this shipment. I can either, if it's just on back order, I do have the option of leaving it here. We can receive against the purchase order and partially fill it, or I could just take it off and let it be part of the next one. So then highlighted, you can see my remove item comes alive. So I'm going to click that. And there we go. We've just gotten rid of the item. If that's a mistake, I can add it back. No problem at all. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And there we go. So we've added our information. We sent it to the vendor. We had a slight hiccup and we came over here and adjusted. Now, one more time, come back to store operations. Let's say it's been a few days and we're ready to receive against that PO. I'm going to pop into receiving. Time for me to go ahead and get these items into my inventory. All right, so this is a brand new voucher. As you can see, it looks very much like our our PO screen. And so really, once you start getting the hang of one, the other one really comes along quickly after that. So reference PO number. So I can either type it in, I know it, so that's good there, or I can go ahead and search. I'm actually going to go ahead and search just to show you guys that. Once more, I know that I don't have any other ones, so I'm just going to hit search, and there we go. I'm going to go ahead and select it and select. All right, so you can see it starts filling in what it can. So I can see already that 10% discount. I can see, well, the freight amount's not coming over just yet, but what I really wanted to see were my items, and I don't see that just yet. That's totally fine. The reason why you don't see it just yet is because Prism doesn't assume you're getting your full shipment. You know, in the perfect world, we always would, but really I want to come over to PO items, and then I can check off everything that I got. I can go ahead and say all due, item due. Item due is looking for the check marks. And actually, let's go ahead and just say all due. You can always just come in here and grab them individually, but I'm going to go ahead and say all due. And there we go. Now I have all of the items and their appropriate quantities. And now I can go ahead and see that freight information, that full $25 worth of freight. And it still gives me the opportunity to change these quantities. So perhaps they actually didn't send me the full shipment. I only have 4 of this last item. And so let's go ahead and edit that. And you see our totals are now changing. But let's say that as a replacement, they sent me something that I actually didn't order. Also, it happens. So we still have our item lookup. I can go ahead and click into it. And I can find the item here. Now, if we took the time to add vendor UPC information to our items when we're creating our items, then I'd be able to just scan the vendor UPC directly into my voucher, and it'll save me a little bit of time. All right, so perhaps they didn't send me what I asked for, but they sent me one of these guys. And there we go. And so now this is all set. If the associate is incorrect, I can always change that. And here, just the same, I am able to highlight and remove item if that was incorrect. I also have the ability to change the cost. Take note that the cost that we entered on our PO for this item did come over appropriately. And if I were to check that same item in inventory before I save this, I would see the old cost. After I save it, I'm going to see a new average. We also have the ability to change the way we our costing method really in inventory. So if you guys overwrite your costs instead of averaging your cost, it's just a simple configuration change. Flip a switch. All right, but other than that, I can print and update only, and essentially that's update your inventory. So these items will then flow into your inventory. We can also print it. You can hold a voucher. You can also hold a PO. You can hold a receipt. You can hold almost any document in Prism here and come back to it on a different workstation if you need to. But for right now, I am going to update only. And there we go. Those items are now in my inventory already set. If I go ahead and look up my purchase order once more, let me go ahead and grab this guy. Select PO item. You see this one. Now I'm only looking at one item now, but that original PO had more than one item. The only reason that this is happening is because those other ones have been received against. So this is only looking for what's due. That's why it's so important that if we're going to use POs, that we are referencing them on the voucher. That's the only way that Prism's going to know that that PO has been received against, is if we reference it on the voucher. All right. And so I know that was also quite a lot. If we have any questions, do we have another question? Oh, that was the same question. Sorry about that. All right. If we have any questions at all about purchasing, about receiving, please feel free to raise your hand or just type it out and we can go ahead and discuss it a little bit. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and one more time pop into our administration. Actually, I'm going to pop into point of sale. And this is, I'm getting this pop up because we opened up a brand new voucher, and that's okay. All right. So another key thing for point of sale is going to be closing and opening our drawer. And so right here at point of sale, we do have our XZ out here. And so an X out in Prism Speak is essentially a checkup on your sales. You can run this for any date range. You can run it for just today, but it'll essentially show you the exact same information you get on a Z out report without needing to actually close the drawer and close the till. You can also take a look at old Z outs. Let's go ahead and open that up a little bit. Let's do December of 2020. accept, and I'm going to just leave this pretty open, see if I have another Z out. No, it's okay. We'll make one. So Z out, I'm going to close our register here. And so it's always going to go ahead and default to the workstation you're on. And again, even if we're using a mobile device, we're still just in a regular Google Chrome tab. So we configure this ahead of time so that way each workstation can connect and has its own unique name and ID. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to next. Here we go. People normally absolutely love this. So all we have to do is put in the count of pennies, so the physical count of bills and coins. It really kind of takes away all of the, well, not all, but it takes away a lot of the possibility for error. We're not having to do any math whatsoever. We're just doing some basic counting. So let me go ahead and just say that we have a few of everything here. Let's actually just add some dollars. We have 6 of those. Maybe we have 5. And then I have 50s in there twice. That, again, just to show you, we can really customize this as well. So if this tens actually written out makes more sense to you and your associates, that's what we want to build, whatever makes it the easiest for your associates. We understand that, you know, upgrading or changing systems entirely, there's going to be a learning curve. So we want to go ahead and straighten that curve out, flatten that curve where we can. And a big part of that is making sure that it's laid out in a way that makes sense to your associates. So verbiage, we have a lot of control over how things are displayed and labels. All right. So we're going to go ahead and leave that as is for right now. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next screen. And so our matching currency, if we do have things like, if we do accept things like checks, something that should be in the drawer, or before, you know, cards, when we had to have the signature, people needed to go ahead and match those and make sure that we had signatures for everything that we accepted. We want to just go ahead and say, yes, that signature is in the drawer, or yes, this physical check is in the drawer. I can always add new. Maybe the check from last week accidentally got shoved in the back of the register and we need to account for it. I can just hit add and do everything right here on the fly. All right, for right now, we're going to go ahead and go next. And yes. And there we go. So right now, a little bit off, not too much, but just a little bit. But we are not requiring a blind close, so I have access to all of these numbers. You can require a blind close, and that way your associates will know that they are off, but will not know how much they are off. It does give them a chance to go ahead and go back and recount without giving them the opportunity to know exactly how much they're off by. And that's really kind of more important in larger environments or environments where shrink could be an issue. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and finish. And that's about it. You know, it's a pretty standard procedure for closing your drawer at night, and for opening it in the morning, it is even easier. We're essentially just telling Prism how much money is in our register. Try to make this part as easy as possible. You guys got other things to worry about. For just a moment, I want to take a detour into customers. And so, as I've mentioned a few times, Prism access through the web is still fully functional. So we can add new items, we can receive merchandise. I can also add new customers here. So we can add a customer, and we get this little pop-up. Just like in our other sections of Prism, anything that's highlighted in red is required, and we can add any additional information that we might have for that customer. We also have loyalty for Prism. We can talk about that a little bit more later. All right, a customer lookup. Again, we can go ahead and do first name, last name, or all. Currently, we are only looking at active customers. We can also go ahead and look at inactive customers. All right. So there we go. I can go ahead and select customer, and it opens up that customer profile. Just like our item profile, we have a lot of space and a lot of information that we can hold for customers. Not that we necessarily need to. Here we have our contact information, our general overview of our customer statistics. So these are extremely helpful, especially if you're trying to go ahead and run maybe some kind of email campaign, a coupon program. You need to go ahead and see who is spending the most money at my store, and can I get them to come back? Prism can help you go ahead and find those customers and market to them especially. You can always check out the customer history. Really, really helpful, especially if you're trying to deal with a return for a good customer that just happened to have forgotten their receipt. If we added them to the screen and they're in Prism, then I'm going to have a complete list of their history, and we can really help them out that way. If there are any held transactions under that customer, remember we can always hold a transaction on one workstation and open it up on another workstation. And if we're having trouble finding it, going about it from the customer point of view is even easier. And we can also go ahead and remind them if they have let's say they have 2 transactions on hold. They're coming in to unhold the latest one, but we can give them that reminder. Hey, you were also in the market for this and this last time. You still interested? All right. Credit details, this is going to be a little bit more if they're doing any kind of AR charge. And of course, miscellaneous, any additional information we have. And here's another great example of some of our user-defined fields. So if they have children or if they have a spouse that also shops with us, maybe we want to enter that information. That way, if the spouse comes in to, return something or asks, help me out with the gift, we can help them, and we can go ahead and see what our customer has been interested in. All right. From here, you can see I can always start a brand new transaction. Oh, yes. Let's go and open up that register really quick. So we're coming full circle here. I'm opening this up. And there we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and say we're opening it with $150. There we go. And we're going to finish. All right. So full circle, we close the drawer. Maybe we needed to go ahead and reopen it for this customer. And I can go ahead and start building a new receipt and help them out and get them out of the door. You can see that Liz Martinez is already listed on this receipt. No need to do any of that. It's all automatic because we went through our customer profile. So I can hold that. And now I can go ahead and unhold and copy, or I can just pop back out to my point of sale. All right. So again, I know that was a lot that we went through. Do we have any questions at all about our customers or anything we've gone over so far? All right. Sounds good. Just a moment. So what I have been working on was Prism from a Google Chrome tab that was actually not part of my normal, or that was not on my normal Prism machine. So it was a completely different machine I'm team viewered into. You can see that there. On my quote unquote main, I have another version of Prism, or another instance of Prism, ready to go ahead and take sales and transactions. But I also want to take a moment to show you RIL. So RIL is currently Prism's back end. And as mentioned, if you're familiar or if you've seen Retail Pro version 9, this is a comforting and familiar face. If not, it's really not that bad at all. We're going to walk you right through it and make sure that you feel confident in either Prism or RIL. In both Prism and RIL. So I can jump into a merchandise and my inventory. And again, it's a completely different look setup wise, but it's the exact same inventory. I have additional system preferences that I have available to me here. This is going to be where I can go ahead and set up my store information and things like taxes. Here is a snapshot of my tax areas and how they work together to create my tax rate. So for example, in my tax area, Sonoma, any item that's listed as a tax or as a one tax taxable item is rung up at a rate of 8.25. In Sonoma, any item that is given the tax code 2 exempt is rung up at a 0 rate. Again, in Sonoma, farm 3.25. So we really can control this. We can get really, really specific with taxes, and that's usually a pleasant thing for our accountants to hear. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and roll back out. We still have our customers. We can actually still even process sales from the RIL version. With RIL, it is a software that is local to the computer. The Prism side is the browser-based that can be accessed from any mobile device that has access to the internet. All right. Excuse me. With that, I also wanted to take a quick second. So Big Hairy Dog, as I've mentioned before, we've been in business with Retail Pro quite some time. So we've spent a lot of time building some beautiful reports that you have access to currently with RIL. And so if I were to go ahead and run something like this, I absolutely do love this report. It is my on hand, sold, on order, and received by style. So I can filter this for a given department, for a given vendor. If I'm making a purchase order for a specific vendor, I might really want to do this. So I can go ahead and say, all right, well, within the time frame I've selected, I can see what I have on hand currently, what I sold, anything I received. This particular version of the report does not have on order, but does have adjusted quantity. So if you prefer on order, that's something that we can change, a slight customization, and then it's yours to keep. All right. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of reports available. We actually have a document that lists all of our current customized reports that, as mentioned, currently are available for RIL. We are also working on building new reports in what will be Prism's reporting, and that's going to be called a crunch reporting. So we're really excited to go ahead and dive deep into that and make just as many, if not more, amazing reports for our clients. If you have any specific reporting questions, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to go ahead and talk to you a little bit more about them. Any specific questions on what Prism can do, I'd be happy to go ahead and answer any additional questions people have. Just really quick, let me go ahead and pop this onto the screen. All right. Of course, if you have any questions on sales, pricing, anything like that, please feel free to give us a call at 800-377-7776 and just let them know that you're interested in getting a little bit more information about RIL and Prism. And my sales team is going to take care of you wonderfully. If you have any questions about what Prism can do before you get that started, feel free to email me. I'll do just one moment. So can we as retailers customize reports, or does that have to be done through Big Hairy Dog? And so moving forward in Crunch reports, that is going to be much more user-friendly. You can go ahead and dive deep into those. For RIL version 9 and Crystal reports, those you would need a report editing software in order to edit them. And so a lot of people don't have that, so they ask us to go ahead and step in, or they don't have the training for that, so they ask us to step in. It usually takes us, we can get it done a little bit quicker for people. but your database and your data is always your own. In version 9 and in RIL, you have access to your raw data via the SQL shell. But like I mentioned, for your average everyday person, that might be a little bit out of their wheelhouse, which is why we like to step in and create all of these reports. Most of the reports that we have available currently were made because we had clients who had the need for them. But like I said, moving forward into crunch reports, that is going to be a little bit more reminiscent of an older version of Retail Pro, where the client had a lot more control and you could build your own reports. Yes. Right. Sorry for the long-winded answer. All right, really quick, I do want to go ahead and pop on here that reminder. So 800, excuse me. Actually, let's go ahead and get this in at bighairydog.com. All right. If you guys do have any follow-up questions at all about what Prism can do, feel free to email me, lizm@bighairydog.com. You can always go ahead and email tech@bighairydog.com as well. Those are essentially, we'll go ahead and, quick ways to get answers. We do try to go ahead and respond back to people same day. A little bit later in the day, we might get back to you the following day. And of course, you can go ahead and give us a shout out over at sales@bighairydog.com. Felicia, Karen, Elise are names that you guys might know already. They're a wonderful sales team. If you give any of them a call, they will go ahead and ensure that we get your question to the right person as well. All right. Don't save. All right. And so with that, I want to go ahead and ask one more time. Does anybody have any final questions or anything? All right, if no other questions are coming up, I'll stick around for a second and keep an eye out for those questions or those hands. But again, this has been Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and this was a brief look at RIL and Prism and everything that Prism, or some of the things that Prism can do. Like I said, we have a lot of additional features. If you do any kind of promotions, Prism has some beautiful promotions. We can set up things like buy one, get one. You buy 3, you get it at a certain discount, and those are all automated. So your associates do not have to worry about what promotion is valid today or tomorrow. So really, really great for people who like to go ahead and run a lot of sales to get people in. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here in a bit, but like I said, I'll stick around if anybody has any additional questions. Thank you so much. All right, so it looks like we don't have any questions. I'm going to be ending this meeting. Again, if you think of any last minute, please feel free to reach out to us at 800-377-7776, or my email, lizm, as in Mary, bighairydog.com. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a good one.